According to the Mayo Clinic, a leader has more impact on their employees' personal health than the employee's physician. I want to say this one more time. A leader has more impact on their employees' health than the employee's personal physician. And if you've ever had the misfortune of working in a toxic work environment, then you know how true that is. Toxic work environments cause headaches, stress, and it's not like at the end of the day when you go home you can just leave it at work. You bring it home and it impacts your relationships with your friends and your family. Too many times the cause of these environments is the leader themselves. Happy Monday. Thank you for joining us for this week's Weekly Wisdom. So for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about the 7 deadly sins of leadership. Things that leaders do that kill teams and morale and performance and results. And the first one, these are done in order of importance. So the very first one that we're going to talk about is a lack of emotional intelligence, the inability to manage yourself first. Now, as we mentioned earlier, if you have worked for one of those leaders, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is where we need to look in. When we're leading other people, we need to understand what is our emotional intelligence? What is our ability to give professional, respectful, appropriate, and fair feedback across the board? What is our ability to receive that feedback? And I have very good news for you. As somebody who struggled with emotional intelligence for most of my life, it wasn't until I had a phenomenal professor who helped me begin understanding my internal versus my external. Shout out to Dr. Bach. So emotional intelligence is something that can be learned. Some people are just gifted with it. They're born, they have it, it's great. But for the rest of us, you can learn it. It's a skill just like anything else. It's a little bit awkward in the beginning, but once you get it, it pays huge dividends. Now, one of the first things that you need to be able to do is to be able to accept feedback gracefully. So what do I mean by that? You need to ask and accept feedback that is given from your leadership, from your peers, and most importantly, from those that you are leading. You need to have the environment to where your employees feel comfortable coming to you and saying, you did X. It hurt my feelings, or it made me nervous, or I'm not quite sure I understand the intent. I had one of these scenarios where I was on a new team. I was trying to figure everything out, and I got a meeting, and in my past life, that meeting would have meant I was in trouble. But it was an environment of trust, so I reached out to my leader and said, hey, this came up on my calendar. Just check in. Is there anything that we need to talk about, or is this exactly what it says it is? And he explained, no, you're not in trouble. This is just a realignment meeting to make sure we're all on the same page. And when I showed up, it was exactly that, a realignment meeting. Nobody was in trouble. So it was nice and welcoming and amazing to be in an environment to where I could ask my leader and they could give me that direct feedback. There were no politics. There was nothing shady happening. It was what they said it was. That's the environment that you're trying to create as a leader, where your team can come to you with questions and share their vulnerabilities and insecurities and not be made to feel less than. Now, one of the ways that helped me as I was navigating these was doing a lot of self-assessments to learn more about myself as a leader. So whenever I would answer, like Strength Finders is one of my personal favorites. You can get Strength Finders 2.0 via Amazon. It's a book. It's got a code in the back. You take the assessment. When you answer it from the point of view of leader. And then it showed me what my strengths were, but also showed me what my shortcomings were. Because I knew that the combination of my strengths meant that I moved very quickly and had a tendency to steamroll people whenever they weren't moving fast enough. And if you know me, you know how 100% true that is. So when I realized that, it allowed me to start slowing down, taking a step back. So I started looking at this information critically as to, this is who I am, these are my strengths. How does that also show up on the opportunity side? And then the last piece is anytime there is a tense situation, anytime you're in a situation and you think, man, that could have gone better, or I noticed that they were shutting down, they weren't giving me the information, stop and do a debrief with yourself. What happened? What went right? What went wrong? And I have followed up, especially whenever I was trying to grow in this area. I let my cast, it was at Disney, and I let my cast members know this is an area that I'm focused on and I could really use your help. I may come back sometimes and ask how a conversation went, what happened with this. So they knew that I wasn't just losing my mind, that there was a purpose for the questions. And it let them know where we were starting from. And they were also a lot more open to giving me feedback. Now, if at the beginning of this you immediately heard emotional intelligence, I have that, that's not something that I need to worry about, do a little bit more digging. Make sure that you have data and people to verify and reinforce that that is accurate. Emotional intelligence is one of those things that leaders should be working on at the beginning of their leadership career, all the way until the day they retire, and then if they have friends and family, continue working on it. Thank you so much for joining me this week for the very first installment of the 7 deadly sins of leadership, the first one being a lack of emotional intelligence. Can't wait to see you next week. Next week we will be covering, it's going to be a surprise because I can't find my list. So next week we'll be covering another deadly sin, the second deadly sin. So more information to come with that. And as always, don't forget, you got this. Have an amazing